everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Bin, where we go behind the proverbial trash bin and we break down some of the builds we do here at Puppet Trash. My name is John Steiger. I am the garbage guy here at Puppet Trash. This week we celebrated the Lunar New Year, and this year's animal is the fire horse, and so we decided to make a fire horse puppet. There's a lot of inspiration for this piece that we'll cover throughout the episode, but we're going to take a look at some of the materials we used, some of the good, some of the bad, some of the fun, some of the not so fun. So let's go behind the bin and check it out.
Yeah.
And rising from the ashes is our fire horse puppet. So this is based off of, or I should say this was inspired by the parades for the Chinese Lunar New Year's, where they have these beautiful sort of like lantern puppets. Usually they're like dragons or lions or stuff like that. But normally how you see it, they've got these big sticks here and then the people are underneath it and they're going around the crowd and they're like moving around and flying and running and all sorts of stuff like that. So I thought that was a little bit on theme since it's the Chinese New Year and parades are such an iconic part of this holiday. I was like, yeah, let me try to emulate that with a fire horse. And I think we did pretty good. So let's go ahead and break down some of the material we used for this puppet. So the first bit of inspiration for this puppet was actually the head. Now, I knew I wanted to do a fire horse Lunar New Year puppet, but I couldn't figure out how I was gonna make a horse out of it. And then sometimes when you put things out into the universe, they pop up. I managed to stumble upon this piece of trash that used to have scent beads in them. So it's a scent bead container, more or less. And what's really funny is that it still smells really good. So this was one of the messiest puppets I've ever made, but it's also the best smelling puppet I have because you can just smell that fresh scent. But that was sort of the inspiration for the horse head. It kind of had that oblong shape. But horses typically have longer faces and snoots, and so I thought this captured the really good sort of formation of that. You know, you can kind of come up, you could pet the nose. It kind of gives you that sense of weight as well, because horses have really big, powerful heads. The fur and the mane, I found this bunting, this celebratory bunting ages ago, and I was like, oh, this could be really good for like a monster or hair or something like that. What I kind of lucked into is that if you can kind of see here, the bottle that I've used is white and blue, and the bunting is white and blue, and then it had this orange, and I was like, well, it's a fire mane for the fire horse. So I kind of really lucked out on that, just having this sort of around. I've had the bunting for a little while now, and so naturally I had to go with it. The movement that this like bunting gets is insane, especially when it runs. So I ended up being really happy with it. But I would say those are the two big pieces of trash that we used were the scent bead bottle and the bunting. Now inside, for sort of the body aspect, it's just more of that brown packing paper that we really like to use, because I needed something that was, you know, gonna move and be able to move really well and not confine me at all. And this really did a great job of not inhibiting the movement and you know, not being so rigid that it's gonna break every time I move it. And because it's propped up on sticks, these are old, I think this was like a half curtain rod that I've used in the past before, but this is basically it's just jammed in there, it's just jammed in the head, it's just jammed into the backside there. But it's really sturdy, it allows for really good control, and because, you know, you can see these puppeteers naturally in parades and stuff like that, it just, you know, I don't really have to hide myself too much. I'm hidden now. I'm hidden now, but that's more so we can focus on the build itself. The eyes, the bulbous eyes that you see there are just candy wrappers that are wrapped around some tissue paper. It's not used tissue paper, so don't worry, I'm not a disgusting person. Kind of like it because it gives a little bit of shine, a little bit of life in those eyes. And the ears are just cardboard, like thin cardboard that I cut and bent, and then I glued in some of that bunting that is on the rest of the body. But those are the elements for this horse puppet. However, getting all this hair on there was a pain in the butt. I felt like a little kid in preschool because I was just basically putting glue, Elmer's glue in my hands and kind of just rubbing it all over and trying to stick all this hair down, and it didn't work super duper well. That's why we ended up cutting a bunch of the hair there. But some of it stuck down, you know, giving that illusion of, you know, horse hair, which typically isn't that long unless it's, you know, from way up north, or like a Shetland pony or something like that. But that's basically what's holding it there, is just glue. I burned my hand a bunch because I was using hot glue, Elmer's glue, glue sticks, any kind of glue I had in the house is on this puppet in some form or fashion. It holds, and I can't ask for anything more than that. The mechanics of this puppet are really simple. It's just I move my hands a certain way and he moves. So a lot of what I'll do for the running is I'll focus on one end of the puppet. I think I typically will use like the back end, and just the jiggling of it is kind of what makes this puppet move, and then we just pivot here. It's just these two rods. These two rods are the only mechanism that's working it. It's almost like a really strange accordion, if you can call it that. That's all. It's very simple. It's very easy to replicate, and it's very easy to use, and you can get some really good movement out of it. I really enjoyed running around with this puppet, and especially with the bunching. Just, I don't know if you could see it there, but it really, when that hair gets flowing, it looks like he's running 100 miles an hour. It's really, really great. But that's all it is, just little accordion action right there. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode of Behind the Bin. As always, thank you so much for sticking around and watching. This was a good build. It was a good build. I've discovered a lot of fun moving with it. It might not have been the prettiest build, but again, every little brick of knowledge builds a beautiful building of knowledge. But if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing here at Puppet Trash, hit that subscribe button so you know all the weird, kooky things we're up to. Please give us a like if you enjoyed it. Feel free to share it with your friends and family. And be sure to check out the original short that this puppet was made for. I'll leave that somewhere in the nebulos above my head. But as always, my friends, stay cool, stay kind, stay creative, stay safe. And I'll see you next time. Bye.